Hello, and welcome to the PICATalk podcast. PICA is a trade association representing the printing, converting, and graphic communications industry in North and South Carolina. PICATalk is brought to you by platinum sponsors Domtar, Prisco, Athens Paper, Mac Papers and Packaging, Manchester Industries, Recycling Management Resources, and Case Paper. I am Terry McKee, PICA's Director of Member Engagement. All year long, PICA is proud to celebrate the anniversary of the founding of the United States of America by celebrating freedom in print, honoring 250 years of independence, innovation, and ink. Today, I have the honor of chatting with the renowned Frank Romano of the Museum of Printing. Thank you, Frank, for being with us today.
I am happy to be here.
Well, Frank, let's just dive in. We have a lot to cover today, so let's just dive into this. How would you describe print's overall impact on the American Revolution?
Without print, there would be no United States of America. In colonial America, the 13 states, there were 1.5 million people.
Oh, wow.
Only about 100 created the revolution. And they did that through 36 newspapers, 6 of which Ben Franklin owned, by the way, and about 50 pamphlets. And it was this printed material that riled everybody up, that really created the need for a revolution. It was print that created that atmosphere in America.
Wow. That's amazing. You know, if print had not been as widespread or accessible, how different might the founding of the United States had looked?
Well, we'd all be British citizens.
Drinking a lot of tea.
That's really, well, they drank tea anyway, by the way. Tea was a big thing at that time.
Yes.
But again, most people really were comfortable in their lives. They were going about their business. And then you had these newspapers. And by the way, they didn't really report news as such. What they did was that people would write letters to them and they would print them. And then other newspapers would pick them up. It was like a wire service, if you will.
Right.
So the information got disseminated very quickly. And most people didn't subscribe. The taverns subscribed. And so they would read them in taverns, or they would read them in public, if you will.
Sure.
And the people who wrote the most interesting material were really our founding fathers, who wrote under pseudonyms. And so they started to get everybody riled up about, oh, these taxes are terrible. And then the whole conversation changed to really, we should be a free people. Mm-hmm. There should not be a king, if you will.
Absolutely.
And that got done. And the pamphlets, especially, by the way, the pamphlets really were very important.
Yes.
You had Thomas Paine, who did the most work with the pamphlets, and they got printed and reprinted. Many of them were sold, by the way. You would pay a pence for them or something like that.
My goodness.
And as a result, the pamphlets in the newspapers really got people interested in what was happening and got them upset about it. And now you started to get more and more people join what we now call the revolution.
It's kind of like the social media of today, it sounds like.
Exactly right, by the way. And it was mostly word of mouth transmitted through the newspapers and the pamphlets.
Well, were printers seen as political actors themselves or simply tradespeople providing a service? Well,
first they were looked at tradespeople, and then some of them were considered to be rabble-rousers. And so the British were going after some of them. Mm-hmm. So they especially went after Eads and Gill, who did the Boston Gazette. They went after Isaiah Thomas, who did the Massachusetts Spy. Mm-hmm. Both of them had to take their presses apart, leave Boston. Wow. Eads and Gill went to Watertown. Isaiah Thomas took his press apart, got it across the Charles River, and then got to Worcester and established the press there. But they were singled out for a lot of reasons and escaped the wrath of the British for a long time.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. What risks did colonial printers face when publishing this revolutionary content?
Well, most of them got away with it. It was these two who especially were singled out, if you will, right. Because they were doing the most in terms of a rebellion, if you will.
Sure.
But most printers got away with it for some reason because the British were busy chasing after George Washington.
Oh, good old George.
Right. I mean, Washington, by the way, only won 2 battles, which is very interesting. Yorktown,
Interesting.
yeah, and then the last one. Sorry, Saratoga, and then Yorktown. Yorktown was the last one.
Right.
And he spent most of his time escaping the British. So after Yorktown, he comes down to New York, and then he goes to Brooklyn, and then in the middle of the night, they cross over to New Jersey, then go down New Jersey, and then they attack the British on Christmas Eve and get away with that.
Yes.
But they're chased all the way down to Virginia, and the only thing that saves him is the fact that he has the British at the sea, and they can't get on their ships because the French Navy is out there. And the French Navy is out there because of Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
So it's like all these dominoes fell into place.
Sure. Good old Ben. Let's talk about Ben for a little bit. Ben Franklin, the godfather of printing, if you will. What role did Benjamin Franklin specifically play?
Again, you have to look at him specifically because
Yes.
he played the major role.
Okay.
Get right down to it. Starts out as an apprentice to his brother in Boston, learns printing, has a big falling out with his brother, goes down to Philadelphia, gets a job immediately as a printer. A politician says to really learn printing, you have to go to London. So he goes to London, and he goes to work for a very big printing company there. And by the way, in his autobiography, he says that he typeset a book called the Religion of Nature. I just bought that book.
Oh my gosh, Frank.
The original copy of it.
Oh my word.
So he said he typeset that book. You can't get closer to Ben Franklin than that. Finally, he gets back to Philadelphia. He starts his printing business. He's making money like crazy. But he realizes that there's money to be made by having printing in other cities in the States. And so now the problem is, who's going to run them? So he starts something called the Junta, which is a club for young men of ability. And he finds men who can handle this project. And he hires them, makes them partners, if you will. And he sets up printing companies in Lancaster and other cities. Now, he needs a way of getting stuff from those cities. So he becomes the postmaster general, if you will. So there's a road system that can move the mail around, which is going to move printing around. And so as a result, he has all these multiple printing companies, all these young men working for him, and he supplies them with paper and ink and type and all that. Now, by the way, all of that has to come from England. All the paper, you could not make paper in the US. That was against the rules. Although some of the printers during the rebellion did have secret paper making facilities, but they couldn't make a lot of paper at that point. But all their type, everything had to come from England. And that was the stuff that they had to pay taxes on. All right. Now he's making money. He has more free time. He gets involved with the Pennsylvania legislature. And so he goes to London to represent Pennsylvania. And there he gets, he's expressing his opinions, and he gets in trouble with the crown. And there's a big disagreement. He comes back. He's totally against London. He's against the royalty, if you will.
Yes.
So he joins then the first legislature, if you will, the Continental Congress.
Right.
And he's the only member, the only founding father that visited every state and Canada, by the way.
Wow.
Now, what's more interesting is his son, which was born out of wedlock, was the colonial governor in New Jersey.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
William, if you will. He had a younger son who died in birth, and then he had a daughter. The daughter and his wife ran his business when he was away. So he's now a member of the Continental Congress, plays a very large role there in writing the Declaration of Independence, and then is assigned to go to France to get France to join us as an ally.
Yes.
Now, and he wrote a paper about this, called it a great improvisation, because he said, I have no idea how to do this. When he gets there, he is famous because he supposedly discovered electricity, if you will, wrote on science. So the French thought he was a great person. And so he went there with a reputation, which allowed him to really get his opinions across. And the French also respected him because he spoke flawless French. when John Adams went there, John Adams' French was terrible, and the French hated him because of it. But Franklin got away with murder, if you will, set up a
Yes.
operation in Passy where he was living, made friends with everybody, and he gets the French to join with America. And this is a big thing, by the way, because we needed the French. So when Washington corners the British in Yorktown, they can't get to their ships because the French fleet is out there. Cornwallis surrenders, and America becomes a free nation. And you can see Ben Franklin played a role in all of that.
All of that.
The only founding father that did all of that.
I see a lot of corresponding things with Ben and printers of today being entrepreneurs, getting into direct mail, if you will, and expanding his print shops and just all of it. There's a lot of direct correlation.
Oh, absolutely. Ben Franklin is the patron saint of printing. In America, he is great. By the way, many years ago, Bill Southworth at PICA, didn't he do a whole series of paintings?
Yes, actually, several years ago, the PICA Foundation commissioned Mort Kunstler and Ward Nichols to do some limited edition prints.
Yes, and we have a complete set of them here, by the way.
Yes, we're actually going to, as a celebration this year of the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States of America, we're relaunching them, if you will, and selling them nationwide.
Oh, wow.
So, yes.
That would be great. Definitely, I will buy a set.
Wonderful. Let's get back to the Declaration of Independence, the keystone document, if you will, of America, of the United States founding. Can you walk us through the printing of the Declaration of Independence, like including how quickly it had to be set, printed, and distributed?
Yes. We just wrote a little pamphlet on this, by the way.
Oh.
So July 4th, 1776, they signed the Declaration of Independence. Now, a guy named Dunlop, John Dunlop, was the official printer for the Continental Congress. He worked all night and printed 200 copies. Now, they call it broadsides because they're one sheet of paper, no signatures on them. All of those copies were distributed. They went to the states, the congresses of those states, and went to the military, and so most of them were given away. Usually when somebody has a painting and they find a copy of the Declaration of Independence behind it, it's the Dunlop copy, if you will.
All right.
Now, then in January, Mary Catherine Goddard does another version of it, which has all the signatures, all the names on it.
Okay.
And again, they print several hundred of them. They also go to all the states, and that's the one most people see, if you will.
Yes.
You see the Declaration of Independence. Now, there's also a copy that was handwritten on parchment.
Okay.
And that's another one they all signed.
Right.
And that didn't, by the way, that painting of them all signing it, that never happened. What happened is they came back, each one signed it at a different time. So
that makes sense.
The painting of all of them signing the Declaration doesn't exist. That didn't exist in reality. So that's why there are all these versions. I'd like to see the one that they had in, National Treasure that has the map on the back. I want to find that one.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
I like the fact that he steals it from the National Archives, and he's holding it, and because it's bulletproof, it saves his life from them shooting at him. One of my favorite movies, by the way, because it's a lot of truth and weaves in a whole scenario around it, which is absolutely fascinating.
That's awesome. I love that movie too.
So Mary Catherine Goddard is interesting. She was a printer in Baltimore. The way women got into printing was their husbands or their fathers died. That's how she became a printer. Her goal was to be the postmaster of Baltimore, but George Washington wouldn't allow it because she was a woman.
Oh,
I mean, I like George Washington, but boy, that's not, that's a black mark on my book.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about Mary Goddard and Ben Franklin a little bit more, and other printers, because there are not just those two printers. There's the Isaiah Thomas, and there are some printers down where I'm at in North and South Carolina that were instrumental in furthering the cause of the colonial times. But what were like? Let's get back to like the technology and craft of printing at
Okay.
the time.
So first of all, you needed type.
Yes.
So you had cases of type, which,
Mhm.
by the way, came from the Caslon foundry in London.
Oh,
John Caslon was the major type founder. And because the British Empire was worldwide, if
yes.
you wanted type, it was Caslon.
Okay.
And I've actually been in the type museum in London where they have the original punches that made the Caslon type. And I was also
Wow.
instrumental in putting the plaque back on the building where his original foundry was in London.
Nice.
So you wanted type, you bought it from Caslon. It was shipped to the United States. As you know, it took months to get here.
Yep.
You had to make sure you had enough of it. And as you know, you had a lowercase and an uppercase filled with handset type.
Yes.
You had a wooden composing stick, and you pick the letters out one at a time and compose them in the stick. You put blank spaces in between the words. You justified the lines. Now, in those days, they had a symbol that we don't use today called the long S. It looks like the letter F. So if you had an S in the middle of a word, it was the long S. And that's stayed in use until just after 1800, by the way.
Right.
Now, after you composed your page, you proofed it and double checked it, if you will. Your ink came from London, although many printers made their own ink with linseed oil and carbon black, or soot, if you will.
Oh, wow.
That's what Gutenberg really invented when you get right down to it. Then they would print it. Now, the press they had was an English common press. We have one here set up at the museum.
Right.
All the presses came from London. The first press that ever came to America was the Stephen Day press that printed the first Bible in America, the Eliot Indian Bible. That press still exists, by the way. It's in a museum up in Vermont. James Franklin's press, the one that Ben Franklin worked on, still exists. It's in a museum in Rhode Island. Isaiah Thomas's press still exists. That's in the American Antiquarian Society, which Isaiah Thomas formed in Worcester, Massachusetts. So put it on the press. Now, they had to dampen the paper. So they would dampen the paper overnight. And then they would have these ink balls, and that's how they put the ink on the type. They would put the paper against it, close the press, put it underneath, make a pull, and they would then take it out, hang it up to dry. When it dried, they would then print the second side.
Right.
It was a very time-consuming and tedious process.
Yes.
Mostly what they printed were newspapers. Many of them had the rights to do currency for their particular state. And they did some broadsides. And again, the revolution was good for printing because of all the pamphlets and newspapers that were being printed at that point.
Absolutely.
So that was an average print shop. The people who worked there, the lowest level, were the apprentices. Below them were the printer's devil. Those were kids, by the way, who were indentured and didn't get it paid at all. I love this when school kids come in here and there's always a bucket near the press, and they always say, "What's the bucket for?" I said, "Well, they had to clean the type." And they said, "What did they use?" I said, "Uric acid." They said, "What's that?" I said, "Piss." So the printer's devil did every dirty job that you can imagine in the shop. And then after a certain period, after they were teenagers, they became apprentices. So they would then work to a certain age, and they would become journeymen. And that was like getting tenure. And now you could leave and start your own printing company, if you will. So Ben Franklin did more to create a printing industry in America because of all the print shops he owned and all the young men who became journeymen and then moved out and started printing companies, if you will.
And Ben did all those too. He started out as an apprentice, correct? Or was he a printer's devil first?
Yeah, that was the controversy. His brother was put in jail. And so there was a contract a secret contract with his brother that once his brother got out, Ben would run everything. And when James got out of jail, Ben would be free. James reneged on that, and that's why Ben left.
Oh, good for Ben.
Yep. So the Colonial Print Shop, as you can see, it was a one-room operation.
Yes.
And again, a small group of people who did most of the work.
Right. Absolutely. Well, how did printers balance, speed, accuracy, and volume when producing politically urgent materials?
They didn't. There are so many errors in colonial materials, it's not even funny. Again, most of them were relatively uneducated.
Sure.
The rule was you followed the copy out the window. So they would have a letter and they would just try to follow every letter if they could. But the
Right.
problem is in the letters, there was not a long S in some cases. And so they had to make amends for that. Don't forget they had to do justification in most cases, because
Yes.
without justification, they couldn't lock the type up. So they had to know how to hyphenate words. And many of them did that badly.
Right.
Many examples of genuine newspapers from that period, they're just filled with errors. So again, they did their best, but again, they were not educated people in most cases.
Right. Absolutely. Let's talk about a little bit before the Revolutionary War, the Enlightenment period. What role did printing play in spreading Enlightenment ideas that fueled independence?
Almost none. That was not an issue.
Okay.
No one was really talking about that at all. Most of what was in the newspapers then was what I would call gossip.
Yeah.
Someone would write a letter. I just came back from London and I met somebody who met somebody, and we talked about something. There was no political discourse as such, if you will.
Right. Okay.
It's mostly what I would call rumor and innuendo.
Wow, that's so funny. Did they do any advertising?
There was some advertising.
Mhm.
That's mainly how they got the money to support the operation.
That makes sense.
And it was in its infancy. And they were learning how to do it. They did it badly in most cases. But again, they didn't go out and try to sell advertising. People would come in and say, could you run this ad for me?
Right.
And did. And the ads were kind of amateurish when you got right down to it.
Yeah.
Because there were no advertising agencies. So really
Sure.
what it was the person who wanted to advertise in the printer sort of made it up as they went along.
What can, shifting gears a little bit, what can today's print community learn from the printers of the founding era, which is not just, the founding of the United States, but the founding of the printing industry in the United States?
I think let's use Isaiah Thomas as an example, because he did the most. He realized that printing could become a business. And it wasn't that it was printing so much, it was the product that he printed. So first he did the Massachusetts Spy, which was a newspaper. But then he started to do Bibles.
Right.
He did a giant Bible called a Folio Bible. We have a copy of it here, which he promoted in his newspaper.
There you go.
Then he did a smaller Bible called a Quattro Bible. And he was one of the first to get into stereotyping. You see, the problem with printing in those days was after you printed the book or whatever it was, you put the type back in the case, letter by letter. Then if you had to reprint the book, you had to pull it all out and typeset it again. And this was a real problem. With stereotyping, they could make a mold, and then from that, they could cast type of the pages very easily. So the Bibles that Isaiah Thomas did was stereotyped, and then he sold the stereotype plates to other printers. And so his Bible became very popular. But then he got into textbooks, and he made a fortune publishing the first textbooks in America.
Wow.
And that's what he did. Then he founded the American Antiquarian Society in Worcester, Massachusetts, which preserves everything printed in America before 1800. Wow. It's a wonderful, I'm a member there, and it's a phenomenal operation. Just a collection of newspapers alone. If you want to see what existed in colonial America, they are all there.
Yes.
It's the only really site where everything is in one place.
That's amazing.
So Isaiah Thomas is a good example of a printer who learned to make money with printed products.
Right.
Our printers today are services. We print for other people.
Right, right.
Isaiah Thomas was a printer who printed for himself. That's the big difference.
Yes. But he was still very much a businessman.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I remember Joe Webb, very famous consultant in the printing industry, did his master's thesis on whether printers who graduated from business school or printers who graduated from vocational school did the best. And he discovered those that went to business school were the most profitable printers.
Interesting. That's a whole other topic, and that's a whole other podcast. Well, how do you think the founders, this is our last question for the podcast here, but how do you think the founders would view the current print and communications landscape?
Oh, there's no comparison to be, like somebody from the Middle Ages looking at the Space Up program.
Right.
They would look at what we're doing and just be absolutely amazed. I mean, the technology we're applying to print today is unbelievable. As you know, tracking technology all of my life. I started at the Mergenthaler Linotype Company in 1959 when the whole industry was hot metal.
Yes.
The first brochures on photo typesetting and the first books on digital printing and PDF workflow.
Right.
It's a whole different world than it was then. The problem now is that we are being challenged by electronics. So the telephone, people reading newspapers, we're losing a daily newspaper every day.
It's very sad. Yeah.
Again, they're still publishing newspapers, but electronically, not on paper. Right. And kids today are reading ebooks. Even, by the way, interesting statistic, we are still printing more printed books than ebooks at this stage. People have realized that with a printed book, you can give it as a gift. You can go back and read it again someday. The technology will always be there on paper. So books are seeing a renaissance, if you will.
Well, printed books do not require batteries.
That is correct.
And you cannot highlight like electronics in books. Like when I go to church and I'm studying my Bible, I can't highlight passages and they keep on electronic device. I like it in the printed version.
You should come here and see our Bible room. We have the largest collection of rare Bibles on earth. I just got a Tissot Bible in from 1904. The first Bible with color pictures.
Oh my goodness.
Printed by photogravure, 1904. So.
Wow. Well, how did they, in the colonial times, was it just all black and white?
Yes. There was no color at all until you start to get to after 1800, and they can start to do spot colors.
Yes.
If you will.
Right.
And then, again, by the time you get to 1900, we're starting to toy around with color printing, if you will. And then by the time you get to the 1850s and 1880s, lithography is starting to come in. We have the first Bible on lithography, the first Bible done with the linotype machine, the first Bible printed on a steam-driven press, the first Bible printed by a woman in America. So we've tried to collect every unique Bible you can imagine.
That's amazing. Well, Frank, thank you so much for being with us today. But can you tell us a little bit about the Museum of Printing? Just tell us
subject dear to my heart. We're in Haverhill, Massachusetts. It's spelled Haverhill, but this is New England. They don't say things the same way as everybody else. So it's Haverhill, Massachusetts, just north of Boston. Okay. We've been around since 1978. And I was one of the founders, but then I went off to teach at RIT.
Right.
Then after retirement, I came back, got involved. We own our own building. We have a very large collection of traditional printing equipment, but we've also got a lot of typewriters. We have the world's first typewriter, the Scholes and Glidden 1873 typewriter. We have a very large collection of desktop computers, because it was desktop publishing that really changed the printing industry.
Yes.
Desktop publishing came in, and then PDF. It was a monumental change. We have all that technology. We have my library of 11,000 books, only about printing and typography, nothing else. And so today we have a party, if you will, at 4 o'clock that people can come and print their own Christmas cards.
Oh, cool. So, very cool.
So it'll be an interesting day. So again, we're open to the public on Saturdays when we have people here to help out, but we'll open any day if somebody's up here on vacation or visiting friends.
Awesome. Wonderful, Frank. Well, thank you so much for being with us today on PICA Talk.